The guy is a miracle. You have to admit this guy is a miracle. We're so lucky to have him. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Brenda. It's very, very nice to be here with you, and all of you. I spent a couple of hours this afternoon talking about John Cage, so I'm sort of doubly intimidated by my advent after Brenda Coldis and John Cage. I'll do what I can. I thought I'd read, for maybe slightly perverse reasons, a little poem from my first book, which was published, I'm almost afraid to say this, but it would seem something like 35 years ago. It's called Winter Sky, so it's my farewell to this extremely difficult winter we've all come through. Add to what you already know the fact that it is severely cold today, and add that to the difficulty of the literal, because the literal somehow misses the way you can miss the blue sky on a cold day. But because it turns out that life is essentially an old string on which we bead beads, some of which match, we cannot help but mention the same thing over and over, as the sky mentions blue. As for you, you have probably taken it lightly. You are so good at doling out events that cause recollection, like that day you pulled something across the future and the sky was blue. The book was called Many Times But Then. And I'll go from that to, I'm not really going to read my entire works tonight. Looks a little like I might. I'm going to read a couple of really recent works now, and then I'll tack back into maybe a little bit from the last two books. This is called Invocation. There's a phrase in it, 90 sorrowing words, and that's from Whitman via Angus Fletcher's wonderful A New Theory for American Poetry. Whitman had this notion that the word for there were 90 sorrowing words. I like this phrase a lot. Invocation. Bring the huge vernacular, bring trysts of jealous gods and a girl changed into a tree, and the tree, bring it back or forward into the foreseeable quantum dawn, shielding opalescent fog. Bring days by the road over which cats run into the evening in diagonal cat shapes. Please also to send 90 sorrowing words from which to choose, as I do not know where the horizon is located night or day, to furnish with cantilevered messages from creatures yet unnamed in the animate gusts of the waiting for speech that is a wonder thing. To whom does the poem speak? To whom is it speaking? Capture Lucretius. World consists of an infinite number, particles of knowledge and beauty, atoms, things that follow orthodoxy, punishments, rewards as durable, fragile, including to disappear anyway, second place the winner, except for Rome, humanists, culture, somewhere library slipped to search obscure accidents into dust for something to find anything at that moment copied. So one of the things I'll try not to narrate at all between these, but it's occurred to me that through my entire life as a poet, I've been in a kind of vortex or or in a space that is split between something that I want to call figurative diction, poetic figurative diction, something of that sort, and the world of fact, and that we now understand as information. So this divide between this sort of place of facticity, which involves empiricism and observation and that form of knowledge, and then something else for which I really don't have the proper word, except for I think it's figurative, and is, for me anyway, a place of response to all of those fact spaces. So this poem is one, I've actually written others that do this, but this is one of the poems in which this is, I guess, demonstrated. It's called Untitled, of Value. Does it sound okay so far, aside from my crumply voice? You might find a better joy outside the cave, noun-drenched, our sacrificial stone. You could walk uneasily toward that blue indoctrination and the lifted motion, S-stranded lamb, a better joy in the weirdness of the sweater, the late noir, coming this close, last instance of the first encounter, coming this close to rudimentary adhesion. And the classical removal from the cloud, sainted apparition clinging to pitch, to the prior image, and the segue, dearest forethought, the bridge and the hall, the acquisitive glamour of autumnal tide, where, if the sun were to travel low and low across the schoolroom, and you were to ask, do you know, what is this? Delivered through architectural limbs, scrappy talismans of the unsaid, adrift, as if you could see only what you wish for in the eternal foreground. Hero returned from his journey, his feet forever wet. Or recall the dream where mother calls you on the phone, sister unweds her father, your lover adrift among the vagrancy of nouns, the intersection, hopes, violence, agitated, intolerable timing of the muscle hitched up to the excluded ship crossing the woven borders, her hay dying under the August sun, windrows curled, and the lament of the swing, the low, the chariot, ropes taut under the August sun, what noise raptured, what cauldron of dark light, vulgar forfeiture into the abrasive toll. And so to come into the acrid avenue and look down, things flung into the bushes, bottles and such, the hidden addendum awash in oil, the boy in his grave, the untranslatable sex. This is the list that mourning endures. In the near distance, a tree is shedding gold. This is how it is. This is not the simple street, its mobile portrait tomb. Girl under the wet earth, collecting dues, counting and counting as the curator treads at the water's edge. Bring me silvers, bring me rubies, bring me buckets of diamonds in ice. No one wakes without loss. I understand you want facts. You want writing about exchange and use and Egypt's plight. You want unthwarted descriptions of empire and history, quotations from Lincoln and Douglas, quatrains of indelible sound for transcription into the instrument you hold in your hand for company. You want to be told. I'm telling you, our housekeeper Cora Brown exclaimed often. I remember Stalin lying dead on the front page and the killing of Emmett Till. Frederick Douglass was named later, after he could read and was free, for a character in Sir Walter Scott's poem, The Lady of the Lake, but you already knew that. He, Douglass, added the extra S so that a mirror or window occurs, glass. My cousin Douglas, with one S, died when he was 12 of cystic fibrosis. Liz, Katie, and Matthew followed suit. Nice to see you. So I was going to go back before I go forward and read a little in this theme of facts, a little from a long poem in my book called Or to Begin Again, in which there's a poem called Alice in the Wasteland, and it involves a character, Alice, taken from Lewis Carroll and Eliot's Wasteland, except that both the wasteland gets lost very quickly, but Alice stays around. So I'm going to read you a little piece of that, and then I'll read you some poems from the new book. Is this good? You're still okay? Not too hot in here? All right, I'm going to try and read some Juan that April with his shortest sota, the drofta marcha hath pierced to the rota, and bathed every vein in sweet liquor, of which virtue engendered is the floor. I should tell you that the main thing that happens in Alice in the Wasteland is, she has an interlocutor called the voice. You should know that. Okay, I'm not going to read that again because I managed to. Juan that opera, you know what that's from, right? What language are you speaking, Alice asked. English, but I don't understand most of the words. Language changes, words morph and disappear into the mire. Mire is an example. What is a mire? It rhymes with some sad words like liar and dire and ire. The mire is the wet ground, swampy, like a bog. It came to mean to be in difficulty. It came to mean to be in difficulties. Like getting bogged down, Alice said. Exactly. Sometimes I think language is as beautiful and mysterious as nature, and no matter how much we learn, it never gives up all its secrets and surprises. To this sudden appraisal, there was no response. Hello? Hello? Two boys rode by on bicycles, calling to each other in loud boy voices. Alice was sitting in the grass. Around her there was a scattering of small button-like yellow heads on slender stalks nodding slightly above the grass. Dandelions, said the voice. I know, Alice said. How did they get this strange name? Etymology can help you there. You can trace a word from its origins. It isn't a dandy, not like Fred Astaire, but the teeth of a lion from the French dents de lion, and before that from Latin. Alice was silent for some minutes. She was trying to make a connection between a lion's tooth and the soft yellow heads of the flowers. She found no link at all. It isn't the head of the flower, Alice, but the shape of the leaf, which is serrated like a tooth, the voice roared with self-congratulation. Alice felt equally edified and annoyed and changed the subject to something the voice couldn't look up with such alacrity. Is a dandelion a fact? No, it's an object. Objects are not facts. That there are objects called dandelions is a fact. I see. And their color, yellow, is that a fact? Yellow is a color, an attribute, not a fact. But that dandelions are yellow, at least until they turn gray and lose all their hair, is a fact. Alice took this in. It seemed to have to do with sentences. And things that happen, are they facts? Not exactly. Events find their bearings by a kind of extrapolation out of all the possible relationships between and among the particulars of the perceptible world, the dandelions. We construct events. They are hinges between the immediacy of the present and what went before and what went after. But that isn't quite accurate, Alice said, knowing that by contradicting the voice she was asking for trouble, and indeed the wind began to pick up. Events are in time, but the way you said it, it sounds as if we make events up, whereas events happen that we have no control over. Earthquakes and storms and terrible accidents on roads, for example. As Alice made this observation, the crowd of dandelions nodded and swayed excitedly. You are talking about stories, I think, Alice went on, getting up from the grass and walking quite quickly up the hill. She thought a storm was in the offing. But an event isn't a story. Stories add event to event, as if stitching them to each other or putting beads on a string. Event horizon, the voice shouted. What? Event horizon, the edge of space-time, the great maw of the universe. There was thunder to accompany these bold statements. I'm not looking through anything, Alice said disconsolately, and whatever I say is not seen except in the mind's eye, whatever that is. So far, nothing is as it seems. It is as it seems, or seems as it is. Really, I would prefer to be a cat and trot along with a bird in my mouth, its head hanging limp, feathers listless. Being a cat is nice, said the nearby cat. I grant you that. Being a cat means you can go from violence to affection without any discernible transition. I kill, I purr, I eat, I sleep. These are excellent variations on a theme of being alive, if not exactly sentient, and I recommend them to you as a cure for your humanness. But I like being human, Alice said, and then added, sort of. And besides, I haven't any choice in the matter. But of course, I am not exactly human, she added. I am a fiction, which makes things more complicated on the one hand and a lot simpler on the other. However, said the cat, you are the emanation of a human, so that makes you more human than not. No, Alice said, once again feeling disconsolate. I am only words. This is a bare fact, and there is nothing to be done about it. But Alice, said the cat, are facts not also a matter of interpretation? Perhaps you are not mere words. Alice was silent for a long time, long enough for the cat to clean its face by licking its paws and then wiping them across first one side, then the other. Oh, I don't know what facts are, Alice said at last. Once I thought a fact was a thing substantial and irrefutable, like a table or a penny, but now I am not so sure. I know facts have something to do with evidence, she added, since the cat had said nothing in response to her outburst. When people say what the facts are, they seem to be saying something about reality. The cat wandered away into the shade of a rose bush. It had lost interest. The cat was not interested in either facts or reality. Alice went back to her book. She wished there was someone wise and informed enough to help her with facts and reality. If that person appeared then, and only then, she might be helped with the more awful problem of truth. There's some buzzing going down, having here. It's sort of like this weird. Can you hear it too? Or yeah, I don't know. What do we do about that? Nothing, I guess. Don't touch anything. All right, I'll read you some pieces from this new book. I'm worried about time now. I'm basically always worried about time. Glyph. It was, she said, her favorite color. Fine, I said, have it your way. He said he loved small things. How small, I asked. No answer. A book arrived in the mail I did not order. The leaves, many of them were falling. Perhaps I thought it was sent just in case. It was, she said, her favorite color. The dog barked. He was new to the neighborhood. Fine, I said, have it your way. He said he loved small things. A book arrived in the mail I did not order. Today was more or less full of surprises, something in the mix of habit and hope. Surprise, she said, is a kind of wind. Perhaps, I thought, it was sent just in case. To what or to whom are you referring? I refer, she said, to the dog. How small, I asked. No answer. The leaves, many of them, were falling. The dog barked. He was new to the neighborhood. It was, she said, her favorite color. Do animals forget, I asked? The leaves, many of them, were falling. Something in the mix of habit and hope. A book arrived in the mail I did not order. How small, I asked. No answer. Today was more or less full of surprises. Night news with fake zebra. Let us move more quickly, night, now night, star-encrusted, opulent. The indictment of thought is an opal's smooth version. Guard our sensations, be copious, or at least perform adequate vistas. I saw a pair of eagles from the train. The train trains on. They're sitting, night longer than their perch. We gathered and copious, the eagles a pair. I warrant the arrest of the boy who shot another boy in this sad. In this sad, would you have said no? Bickering, passing the gun, a game of pass the gun. There are gangs. This is not a lesson, a transformation of the subject into another subject, not to insist. Velvet revolution, velvet underground. Lou? Hello, Lou? Can you hear? I am here in the dark church imagining an improvised history as if channeling the news. The eagles sit at the edge of the river. The camera is out of earshot. Jack Spicer is about to speak into the nearest phenomenon while the deer, spelled D-E-A-R, halts naturalism, and a new equation only you in the pews can solve. Are we lost among our subjects? The lone bobcat Andrew and I saw traverses and ancient and incendiary commotion, hunting season under the big tent. And then there was a magician strolling along in broad daylight with something up his sleeve. There is a silver zebra on a silver tray in a gallery in New York. Okay, the little love poem called Domestic Modernism. A chair and a painting are in love. They resemble each other. This happens rarely. It takes a long time for a chair and a painting to fall in love. One of them is geometrical and slides across curves against a black ground. The other is floral. The floral once had a fraternal twin rug, but it was exiled. Is that Susie laughing? I'll read you a few sections from the meditations in the middle, and then a couple of the last poems, and that'll be that. This is good? You still okay? All right. This is a little pivot in somebody writing about this called these chapters. I don't really know what they are. What they are is lifted from something I call a thought journal, but they're not I didn't arrange them chronologically, and they're not dated. The poem forms around the impulse to find out what is going to happen to the poem. If one is under constant revision, does one lose integrity? Integrity whole as a form of the same as an idea of consistency. But humans are flexible in being, in bearing. We shift demeanors in relation to others and other. As we change, we animate the historical pulse. Fashion pretends to reflect these shifts, but often is mere preening mask. Art is a better shapeshifter, both avatar and response to what informs. Charles Olson, what does not change is the will to change. "33. The sky is good company. It refuses to accumulate, which makes it always first. The sky and music. These should be the elected guides for the new world order. The sky cannot repeat, most precious, most desirable. This particular light, that cloud, these colors, have they ever been seen before? I conclude they have not, although there is virtually no way to know, no proof." Emerson called his journals savings bank, blotting book, and wide world. February 1820. Oh, good. I'll go on for another half an hour. This is Emerson. "These pages are intended at their commencement to contain a record of new thoughts where they occur, for a receptacle for all the old ideas that partial but particular peepings at antiquity can furnish or furbish, for tablet to save the wear and tear of weak memory, and in short, for all the various purposes and utility, real or imaginary, which are usually comprehended under that comprehensive title, Commonplace Book." In another entry from March of the same year, he imagines himself in a library, costly, splendid, and magnificent, where he would let my soul sail away, delighted into wildest fantasies. Emerson is interested in the possibility of furthering motions of the mind, imaginations of enchantment. He hunts around for figures whose writing can help him find how to inscribe thought. He assesses at the early journal. It has prevented the ennui of many an idle moment, and has perhaps enriched my stock of language for future exertions. This is me. As if there were, in fact, a first place always in wait, like the sky. This desire for an initial encounter, it spins out of the actual reality, this stuff, these years, like a moth from its cocoon, as if one could shed everything, a sense of panic and excitement, anticipatory, exactly against the stasis of calm, and yet anchored by recessed attachment. Trust, as always, the crucial element. There are patches of blue. The clouds are thick and white with dark gray underbellies. The river a dull pewter. The inadequacy is obvious. Blue, etc. "36. Emerson, age 17, 25 October 1820. I love this. This is my favorite passage, I think. You'll know why. "I find myself often idle, vagrant, stupid, and hollow. This is something appalling, and if I do not discipline myself with diligent care, I shall suffer severely from remorse and the sense of inferiority hereafter. All around me are industrious and will be great. I am indolent and shall be insignificant. Avert it, heaven, avert it, virtue. I need excitement." This is my soulmate. wind sound, as if the dark were in motion, an inky processional bloom. Is there any way to measure or articulate the difference between writing or reading on or from a page and writing or reading a screen? What is the nature of this difference? Does it matter? The question will soon be moot. Books, the handwriting is on the wall. 37. Milky morning light, squirrel headed up the maple with a mouthful of leaves, nesting. River gentian blue, squirrel back down for more leaves, deep hole in the tree. The word estranged hangs in the air, remnant bit of conversation. The eyes stay a few seconds longer than they ought or might. The twilight god is up to no good. The core spot is activated as a form of transport, the chip that harbors all the reticent energy awaiting release. Phantasm arc, zipper across the world. Open it. Let mind embrace matter. Let language subside into shared assent. 38. Old question. Is there such a thing as disinterested love? Love without either the desire to possess or the expedience of use, ultimate good inscribed in religious texts and figured in the democratic civic ideal, to choose the many over the one. In our new world order, this choice seems difficult to access, remote, blocked by stunted ideologies, a staging of self-interest that stymies the possibility of responsive thought attached to deeds on behalf of, for, the greater good. So much myopic friction, belligerence, animosity, pious rhetoric of shared interest, sacrifice. If I love a painting by, say, Philip Guston or Joe Brainard or Amy Silman, is that love animated in part by a desire to own it? But then I want to say, with John Dewey, that an experience is a form of possession, something one has. I experience love for something or someone, and that love is what I possess, not the object of it. This is the side of pragmatism often overshadowed by an emphasis on practicality and cool legal utility, outcomes or consequences uninformed by affects. The rational is pernicious if stripped of affect. Reason includes it. The experience of art shows us how to attach feeling to critical thinking, or so might inform, temper how we act toward each other. Without this experience, we are set adrift in received rigid ideas of the good. Art marks, demonstrates the passage from the good to the just through the agency of care. To make something is to care for it, the burden of care. Etymology finds grief, anxiety. The need to consider, to teach human efforts and practices that do not immediately convert into practical utility or commerce. Can the internet be said to give us an experience in this sense of fully undergoing something? There's something at stake here I cannot quite name, having to do with the relation of mental activities to material or physical presence, the embodied, the performed, the real or actual near. Anxiety that our sense of each other will be denuded of the spontaneous ensemble of minute readings, facial expressions, hand gestures, vocal inflections, smells, which until now have informed how we distinguish, for example, those we come to love or admire from those we fear or detest. This is almost too basic, but touches on an elision, a potential devaluing of our creaturely beings. And I'll end with something. See, now, if I were what I really wanted to be, which is a singer, and I've been doing this, there would be this moment right now when somebody would say, "Sing, foggy, foggy, do," there would be this kind of moment where some old favorite would pop up. It's a dream. Sing Some Enchanted Evening. No. All right, enough of that. Michael, tell me what to read. The problem is that she can't remind. Rebecca Rebecca Wolf just read it, right? So I wrote her. I said, "What poem did she read?" And she said, "It's the one about the boy. I don't know the title." Young boy, wartime. Is that you? Oh. Oh, so you're the very same person who couldn't remember. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't actually recognize you. All right, I can't read that poem because I don't know which one it is. I'm sorry to say. Michael, any ideas? I know you. He likes it. He also told me it was the best poem in the book, so. Okay. I will read a little tiny poem before it, and then that poem, and that will be that, okay? The one before it is called Classical Augury. And I think it's Plato who called the Republic a city of words. I think that's right. Classicists the best classicists is, as we speak, in Venice. Can't be here. Too bad. That's Daniel. Classical Augury. City of words, rotunda and desert wanderer, climb the absence, follow this simple curve into the footprint, or find indifference a shelter, as if lost within a cave, confounded within the merry, leafy compost. City of words, ideal translation and misfortune, to hesitate at the sequel, to traipse backward onto the path, stunted underfoot, to wait until the sugar dissolves, until the rat's nose appends a leaf. Seeing as the windows are shut, the heads are mounted on rose hips and thorns. Prayer is spoken into the dark city of words. Bring the ruin to its proper place among nouns. Open its mouth, peer into the rosy throat. Surely not a new day. Her name is common. She walks along the fibrous tissues and sticks, recalls the fictive cause to save, to go back, to align, to dwell among the first attributes of space. But what are these? Hasty, dim angels. Are they above, below? Beautiful, plural, sloping toward duration. Some elements of the poem for Michael Ives. Restive valley, lucidity, non-Olympic squalor of the mundane, ushered, folded, never golden blessings untold, mist under the standing muscular artifact she invoked, did not remain the studio scold lover in negative shield, fled volition's study, if to lie down, if to hear, eyes assaulted, so to sting, mouth on top of mouth, in the hinged vernacular, thoughts respite or figura arrested in flight. Tact and the cradle jammed, an indecipherable setting across ligatures of care. Patience and the cloth elbow of a monk scribe to the patience and the cloth elbow of a monk scribe to the half-life of angels, quick fluidity of names, incantation waits for veracity, if to be sure is to be otherwise among stones, everything undone, inertial tread along a patriotic map of stars. Voice into whole. Voice stares not into anything seen, but lifts harmonic for glue in the dark, hot chapel under the patterned glass, and came here with a root in mind. Came flustered with concision, mother's child face in copied blue, her skeptical smile out of hearing in view, or Stacy's inner ear stares into Lucretius, atoms for Venus, roses for the lascivious Miss Stein. Mother at the side of carriage, Sister Alice within earshot, smiling infant, smiling love of the one smiling back. And Will said something about love, and I eyed his mouth, and he said, diffuse. What's the use? Mother may have asked the question within earshot, like that dog. I like the middle voice. The gesture could be simple, not exhausted, not vestigial, not a painter's despair in the purple cowls of the monk's robe, in the elegant gallery shoes, leaving shortly for vacation in a small town in France to read Edward Said writing on Genet, missing voice among many, these voices, what is possible to be belated among the last ditch of experience as sound among thieves, restless articulations of this time. Noises from the depths, Deleuze remarks, become voices when they find in certain perforated surfaces the mouth, the conditions of their articulation. I like the cast of the crisscrossed fence pattern on the driveway. Shadows belong to footage. Everything belongs to something else. The gesture, although I wish I were walking uphill, is to open the hand. I repeat, open your hand. This to indicate, to sign, suggests you are willing to give up holding on or keeping or really in any way imagining that you possess anything. There's light on the wires. The green is heavily green. August adds weight to green. Walking uphill with a friend, I said, opening the hand, in response asking the degree to which to interfere with or keep kempt nature in relation to the path we were following, the surrounding field. Ann Hamilton and I made a video when I was in Columbus, Ohio, visiting, a video of my hand enacting, or rather accompanying a reading taken from Emerson's essay Circles, to which it seemed to me O is a frequently repeated soundscape. I don't think, but then I don't know if Emerson thought about these recursive O's, but I felt or feel sure that some writers respond to different registers of sense possibility. Perhaps this observation goes without saying, but having said it, I will let it stand, not exactly as a statue or statute, but as a bringing forth into the space of hearing obvious or given acknowledgement that sound conjures itself into or while seeing what you say. Here reminded of Lisa Robertson's essay in her book Nilling called Lastingness, in which she cites Jean Starobinski's, citing Saussure's idea of a phonic matrix in classical Latin poems, finding mannequins, isolated theme words, whose uttered sounds were hidden and sometimes scrambled beneath the overt textual semantics, a material substrata of encoded sound. I don't think finding repeated O sounds in Emerson's circles qualifies, but it might be a vestigial trace of this complex arena of sound sense, which I think in the new technological dispensation is falling away from our shared calling. Let's listen to music, one girl says to another in affectlessness. Vacuity or vestige of the gesture caught between Venus and Hercules, promise of the black elision, so to assert, quote, a search that is made through art making does not have the clarity of an ideogram, unquote, a problem of naming in relation to image in the landscape or space, horizon erased or transposed into disembodied geometries, bright techno superstructure. So to ask, what is it? Only a positive sign of lack in the architecture's ultimate immobility, the inertial of the material ground mound. So then, to desire a general unframing, passage into the arc of the kite, to get beyond the finality of presets, to caress the air as the difference between material effects and material meanings. All the singular figures in motion, not touching, a pattern of trust away from the broken authority of the hierarchical, away from the one. Thank you.